In this video, I'll be going through a number of algebra multiple choice questions. If you would like to try this quiz before seeing the solutions, I invite you to pause the video here and click the link in the description below. Once you've completed the quiz, your grades will be automatically shown to you. Let's go through the solutions. In question 1, you're given the problem p divided by 5 is equal to 20, and you're asked to make p the subject. Now this is a simple change of subject problem in which you're given a numerator, in this case p, being divided by 5. Now the only way to make p the subject would be to multiply both sides of this equation by 5. So the correct answer for this would be p is equal to 20 multiplied by 5. So the correct answer for this is D. Question number 2 is an indices problem, where you're given the expressions 3x squared multiplied by 2x cubed. Now you must remember that when you are given indices to multiply, the coefficients in front of the variable can be multiplied as normal. So the 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Now once the bases are the same, your answer should have in the same base. However, the powers now, when you're multiplying, you must remember to add the powers together. So the 3 plus 2 should give me 5. So my power is now x to the power of 5. So the correct answer for this problem is A. Question 3 is a simple algebra multiplication problem. You're given the expressions negative 8a multiplied by negative 3b. And you must remember that when you're multiplying two negative terms together, your answer should be positive. So right away we can tell that options A and B are incorrect. Now negative 8 multiplied by negative 3 is 24. And since we have two different variables, all we can do is write them back together. So A, B. The correct answer for this question, therefore, is D. Question 4 is an operations problem. You're told the operation A star B is equal to 2A minus 3B. That means whatever term you have as your first term, you multiply it by 2. And the second term, you multiply it by 3, and you subtract it from the 2A part. So we're given the terms 2 and negative 3, and we have to follow the same operation. So I start by writing out 2. Now I put in brackets the 2 that is here, close the brackets, take away 3 multiplied by the second term, which is negative 3. Now 2 multiplied by 2 is 4, and negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So what I'm left with now is 4 plus 9, which is equal to 13. So the correct answer for this question is A. Question number 5 is an algebraic fraction problem. You're given the two fractions 4 divided by 5x plus 2 divided by 5x. Now, when you're adding fractions with the same denominator, whether they're algebraic fractions or regular fractions, you must remember that the denominator stays the same. Now, you can simply add the numerators together. That will be 4 plus 2, which gives me the fraction 6 over 5x. So for this question, the correct answer is D. Question 6 is an example of a worded algebra problem, which states when 8 is subtracted from a certain number and the result is multiplied by 3, the final answer is 21. What is the original number? Now, to solve a problem like this, the first thing I would do is to express these words in an algebraic expression. I'm going to use x as my certain unknown number, and like the question says, I'm going to subtract 8 from it. Now it says the result of this when multiplied by 3 is equal to 21. Now to solve for x, I'm going to work backwards. The first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by 3. So on the left hand side, I will have x take away 8 is equal to 21 divided by 3, which is 7. Now to make x the subject, I will then have to add 8 to both sides. That will leave me with x equals to 15 as my correct answer. So the correct answer for this here is D. Question 7 is another mildly challenging algebraic problem. You're given the expression 5 multiplied by 2x minus 1 in brackets is equal to 35, and you're asked to solve for x. Now the first thing you would do with a problem like this is to distribute that 5 to all the elements in the bracket. In other words, the 5 is going to multiply the 2x to give me 10x. Then the 5 is also going to multiply the negative 1 to give me negative 5. And this overall is equal to the 35. The next step is to add 5 to both sides of the equation. So if I add 5 to the left hand side, it cancels with this, leaving me with 10x. And on the right hand side, I should have 40. Now, the final step now is to divide both sides by 10. So therefore, on the left hand side, I should be left with x equals to 4. So this answer is D. Now this question number 8 has been known to give some students some issues. The question reads, if P is equal to 3 open bracket A subtract Q, then 6A is equal to, and you're given the options listed below. Now a question like this is best solved in stages, and the first thing I would do is expand this bracket. So I would write P is equal to 3 multiplied by A is 3A subtract 3Q. The next thing I would do is try to make 3A the subject, because the reason being is I ultimately want my answer to have in 6A. So the easiest thing to do is to make 3A the subject first. To do that, I will add 3Q to both sides of the equation. So on the left hand side, I will have P plus 3Q. And on the right hand side, I will be left back with just 3A. Now the logic part comes in now, where I want to make 6A the subject, but right now I have 3A the subject. So what I can simply do is multiply both sides of the equation by 2, and that will allow me to get the final answer of 6A. Alright, so what I will have then would be 2 open bracket P plus 3Q equals to 6A. So therefore the answer for this problem is going to be A. Number 9 is another worded algebra problem with a few elements of simultaneous equations inside of the question. The question reads, the sum of x and y is 18 and their difference is 14. Which pair of equations describes the above statement? Now the question is asking us to see which of these pairs of simultaneous equations match the statement, and you must understand the keywords here. The first keyword is sum, and the second keyword is difference. You should know that sum means to add and difference means to subtract, and the two numbers we're given are 18 and 14. Therefore, we look through the options to see which one has an x plus y equals to 18 and which one has an x minus y equals to 14. And in this case, our option is C. Question number 10 is another operator problem question. In this question, you're given two examples of unknown operations. The operations are defined by this star symbol, but we don't know what the actual operation is. And our goal is to choose from this list the correct operation that matches these two examples here. Now the only way to solve a question like this is by trial and error. So I'm going to go through each of these options individually, and we're going to decide which one is the correct one. The first thing I would do is label the 3 and the 6 as A and B, as well as label the 2 and the 5 as A and B, so I don't get confused later on. Now for the first option, I would write 4 open bracket. In this case, I'm going to put 6 subtract 3. Now 6 subtract 3 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12. So far so good, it matches back with the first one. Now if I use the second example, I would put 4 outside, open bracket, 5 take away 2. Now 5 take away 2 is also 3, and 3 multiplied by 4 is still 12. So right away you realize that this part here does not match the 9, therefore option number 1 is not the one that I would use. Option B says a squared plus b. So let's begin. That will be 3 squared plus 6, and 3 squared is 9 plus 6 is 15. Now if we go for the second operation, that would be 2 squared plus 5. 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. So we know right away, because I didn't get the 12 here, that this is not the correct operation. So let's go to option C, where it says the operation is 6a minus b. Now let's try that. So 6 multiplied by 3 take away 6. So 3 6s are 18, take away 6 is equal to 12. And next we will go with 6 open bracket 2 take away 5. 6 times 2 is 12, take away 5, and that's equal to 7. So we know it cannot be this one. So if A, B, C are incorrect, then our conclusion should be that D is correct. But let's try it just to be on the safe side. For the operation called D, it says 2a plus b. So that would be 2 multiplied by 3 plus 6. 2 3s are 6 plus 6 is equal to 12. And for the second example, that would be 2 multiplied by 2 plus 5, which would equal to 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. Therefore, our correct answer for this one is D. Question 11 is another moderately challenging algebra problem. You're given the expression 50 minus 3x equals to x minus 26, and we're asked to solve for x. So the first thing to do is to lay out our problem and identify our steps. So 50 minus 3x is equal to x minus 26. So the first thing I would do in solving this is I'm going to add 3x to both sides of this equation. That will leave me with 50 on the left hand side equals to 4x minus 26 on the right hand side. The next step I would do, I would try to eliminate this negative 26 by adding 26 to both sides. So 50 plus 26 is 76, and that's equal to 4x on the right hand side. The last and final step now will be to divide both sides of the equation by 4. So 76 divided by 4 is 19, and 4x divided by 4 leaves me with just x. So the correct answer for this question is D. Question number 12 is an algebra expansion problem. In this question, you're given this long expression and you're asked to see which of these options represent the simplified version of this expression. Now we're going to use the properties of distribution to multiply out these brackets and then simplify. So this 3a is going to first multiply the first term called a. So 3 times 3a is 3a squared. This 3a is then going to multiply the 2b, and that should give me 6ab. On this side now, this negative b is going to multiply the 2a, and that's going to give me negative 2ab. Finally, the negative b is going to multiply the negative 3b. Remember, two negatives give a positive, therefore I should get plus 3b squared. All that's left now is to simplify the middle portion. What I should be left with is 3a squared plus 4ab plus 3b squared. Now the only option here that satisfies the solution is B. Question 13 is another similar expansion problem. We are asked to determine which of these options is a simplified version of this expression here. Let's multiply by expanding the brackets. 5 multiplied by 2x is 10x. 5 multiplied by negative y will be negative 5y. Negative 2 multiplied by 3y, that should be negative 6y. And negative 2 multiplied by negative 5x, that should be positive 10x. Now all that's left is to simplify. So we have 10x here and 10x here, so two of them together should give me 20x. You have negative 5y and negative 6y, the two of them together should give me negative 11y. Alright, so the correct answer to this is D. In question 14, we have two binomial expressions and we're asked to find the product of both of them. So let's start by expanding. This first term x multiplies this first term in the other bracket, leaving me with 3x squared. The same x also multiplies the negative 4 to give me negative 4x. On the other side now we're dealing with the negative 2 now. The negative 2 multiplies the 3x to give me negative 6x. And this negative 2 also multiplies the negative 4, which in this turn should give me positive 8. Now we just simplify the middle portion, and that would be 3x squared minus 10x plus 8. And the answer for this question is again D. Now question 15 is our last binomial product or expansion question, and let's jump right in. We know that we're going to multiply this first term with this first term in the other bracket, so it's going to be 4 multiplied by 3, which is 12. Then it's going to be 4 multiplied by 2x, which is going to be 8x. Then we move on to the second term, negative x multiplied by 3, that should give me minus 3x. And negative x multiplied by 2x, that should give me minus 2x squared. Alright, so all that's left is to simplify the middle portion, and that should leave me with 12 plus 5x take away 2x squared. And again our answer is D. It just so happened that all 4 of these questions, the answer turned out to be D. That doesn't mean that's the case in the exam, but I just want everyone to be able to understand how to solve questions like this. So let's move on to question 16. Now question 16 is our first and only substitution problem in this quiz. So we're given the problem P is equal to m squared over 2 minus m, and they tell us what the value of m is, which is negative 3. Now we're supposed to solve for P. Now beware of questions like this. They try to throw you off with negative numbers, but once you work carefully you should be able to solve it. So let's write our working here. So you have m squared on top, that will be negative 3 squared. And under it you would write 2 subtract negative 3 in brackets. Now you must remember that if you square a negative number, it should become positive. So negative 3 squared is positive 9. And on the bottom, you should remember that if you're subtracting a negative number, then this also becomes positive. So this denominator actually reads as 2 plus 3, which is 5. So the correct answer for this one is C. Question 17 is a worded algebra problem, and it says that Althea saves X dollars each month, but in June she saves $4 more than twice her regular amount. In June she saved, and we're asked to choose one of our options. Now let's go through this statement carefully. She saves X dollars, so therefore X is our regular amount that she saves. In June she saves $4 more than twice her regular amount. So twice of her regular amount would be 2x, and she saves $4 more, so therefore it will be 2x plus 4. Therefore the answer for this is D. Question 18 is our final operation problem. It says that if m star n is equal to the square root of m multiplied by n, subtract n squared, then 5 star 3 is equal to. Let's follow the operation and sit and do what it says. So I draw a large square root sign. I put 5 multiplied by 3, 5 in brackets and 3 in brackets, subtract n squared, and in this case n is 3. So I will put 3 in brackets and I will square it. Alright, so 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. So I will come down a new line and I would write 15, subtract. Now this 3 is being squared and not the subtraction sign, okay? So this is just going to be 9. So that's 15 take away 9. And 15 take away 9 should be 6. So my final answer should be square root 6, which is A. Now we're on to the final question of the quiz, and this question is a simultaneous equation problem, and it's probably the most challenging question on the entire quiz because most students have difficulties understanding how to solve simultaneous problems. If you want a full tutorial on how to solve these kinds of problems, I'll link my previous videos in the description below. But let us begin. To solve this, I'm going to choose the elimination method. Now, some of you may have learned a different method at school, possibly the substitution method, but it's my preference to use the elimination method. So the first thing I'm going to do is analyze the two equations, and I'm going to choose which variable that I would like to eliminate. In this case, I'm going to choose the variable called x. Now if you notice, the second equation has 2 in front of the x, whereas the first one we have 1. Now I want a 2 in front of both of these equations. So the first thing I would do is multiply all of equation 1 by 2. And that should allow me to have 2x plus 4y equals to 2 times 27 is 54. Now I'm going to write the second equation as it is underneath this one. So I'll write back 2x take away y equals to 19. Now what I would do here to eliminate the x variables, I will subtract equation 2 from equation 1. So underneath this 2x and this 2x will cancel to give me 0, and now I have 4y subtract negative y. I must remember that 2 negatives is a positive, therefore in essence I will have 4 plus y. So underneath I would write 5y. Now 54 take away 19 is equal to 35. And all that's left to solve for y now is to divide both sides by 5. Therefore, y is equal to 7. Now that I know the value for y, I can take this answer and substitute it into any one of my original equations here. I'm going to choose to substitute it into the first equation, which was x plus 2y. In this case, I'm going to put 7 for y equals to 27. Now 2 times 7 is 14, so that's going to be x plus 14 equals to 27. And therefore, if I subtract 14 from both sides, I should be left with x equals to 13. All that's left now is to correctly choose the right answer. I have options C or D. Now I must remember that my X answer is supposed to be first, so I'm going to write X equals to 13 here, just so I'm not confused, and Y is equal to 7. So the only answer that satisfies that would be D. Now this brings us to the end of our algebra multiple choice quiz, and I hope most of you were able to get full marks. If you need more exam practice, don't hesitate to visit me at knowledgescroll.com, where I have more questions like these to offer, along with the solution videos. Thank you for watching.